Today we'll be working on lesson 7 and you'll be having a quiz tomorrow on lessons 1 through 7. So make sure if you haven't been paying close attention or if you have not watched all of the videos up to this point, you go back and watch and write your notes in your workbook prior to tomorrow's quiz. So today we're going to solve with distribution of negatives. I can simplify each side of the equation by distributing with negatives and then isolating the variable. Again, we distributed with negatives in the last unit, and we've been isolating the variable throughout this whole unit, lessons 1 through 6. So again, if you are missing any material, please make sure you go back and watch and write before starting today's lesson. So we're going to distribute if possible, which it will be because that's part of today's lesson, and then combine like terms if you can, if they're on the same side of the equal sign. And then we're going to isolate the variable, which means to get it alone using our inverse operations, our opposite operations. So here we go. Problem number 1 is a review of what we did yesterday. We have parentheses. In order to eliminate the parentheses, you're going to take what's on the outside and multiply it to the inside. This x has an invisible coefficient of 1. 2 times 1x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10, positive 10, which equals 26. There's nothing I can combine together on the left-hand side, so I'm going to get my constant of 10 over to the constant of 26, doing our inverse operations. The opposite of adding 10 is to subtract 10. Whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. I now have 2x equals 16. Isolate the variable by eliminating the 2, which is 2 times x. I'm going to divide by 2. So x is equal to 8. Again, you can plug in that 8 and do 2 parentheses, 8 plus 5, hit equals, and it should come out to be 26. Problem number 2, here we go with our negatives. So there is a minus on the outside of the parentheses. I'm going to put my 1 in. So I'm going to multiply what's in the parentheses by a negative 1. This x has a coefficient of 1. Negative 1 times 1 is a negative 1x. A negative 1 times a negative 3 is a positive 3. And remember, as a shortcut, if you have a negative on the outside, it changes all the signs to their opposites in the inside. So if you're not using a calculator, remember you're multiplying by a negative. The opposite of adding 3 is to subtract 3 in order to get it over to my minus 7 on the other side. Negative 1x equals negative 7 minus 3. Signs are the same. 7, 8, 9, 10. I add and keep, or just use that calculator. The opposite of multiplying by a negative 1 is to divide by a negative 1, and I get x is equal to a positive 10. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. Number 3, I'm going to take what's on the outside, my negative 5, and multiply it to the inside. This is technically a 1x, so negative 5 times 1x is a negative 5x. Negative 5 times 4, negative times a positive is a negative, so I'm going to put a minus. 5 times 4 is 20, equals 45. The opposite of subtracting 20 is adding 20. Whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. Those eliminate, become 0. Negative 5x equals 65. I now have to divide both sides by negative 5. X is equal to, I know a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 5 into 65, I believe, is 13. 5 goes into 6 one time with 1 left over. So x equals a negative 13. Problem number 4, again, if you're uncomfortable with the equals negative 21 on the left, you can move that over to the right. I'm going to leave it alone. I don't really like to move things around in case I make a mistake. I don't want to change up the problem. So negative 7 times my invisible 1 is negative 7x. Negative 7 times a negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 3 is 21, equal to my negative 21 on the left. In order to get my 21 on the right over to my negative 21 on the left, I need to subtract it. Signs are the same. You add and keep. That gives me a negative 42 equals a negative 7x. The opposite of multiplying by a negative 7 is to divide by a negative 7. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 7 into 42 would be 6. So I have x equals 6 or 6 equals x, positive. Again, you can substitute that 6 in and do negative 7 parentheses 6 minus 3 in the calculator, hit equals, and make sure it comes out to be a negative 21. Okay, if you're feeling confident with this, you can pause the video and I would try 5 through 8 on your own. and then hit play and check your answers. But don't do all of them on your own just yet, 5 through 12, because you want to make sure that you are doing them right before you do all of them. So just do 5 through 8, pause, try it, hit play. Problem number 5, I'm going to distribute the 2. That gives me 6x. 2 times negative 10 is a negative 20, equals 22. Then going to add 20 to both sides. I have 42 equals 6x, divide by 6, and I get 7 equals x, or x equals 7 if you move the equals to the other side. Problem number 6, negative 3 times 6 is a negative 18x. Negative 3 times a negative 4 is a positive 12. Negative times a negative, be careful there, negative 24. The opposite of adding 12 is to minus 12. Negative 18x, signs are the same, I get negative 36. Calculator, make sure you do negative 24 minus 12. The opposite of multiplying by negative 18 is to divide by negative 18. X equals a positive 2. Negative divided by a negative. Problem number 7, 10 times 2x is 20x. 10 times a negative 5 is a negative 50. Equals the 110 on the other side, which again, you can move to the right side if you rather it over there. The opposite of subtracting 50 is to add 50 to bring it over to the 110. I have 160 equals 20x, sorry. The opposite of multiplying 20 is to divide by 20. Since I don't have a calculator, then my zeros cancel and 2 goes into 16 8 times. So the answer is 8. So 8 equals x, or x equals 8. Problem number 8, negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. Negative 4 times 4 is a negative 16, equals 40. Opposite of subtracting 16 is to add 16. Negative 8x equals 56. Opposite of multiplying by negative 8 is to divide by negative 8. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, and it should be a negative 7. Okay, so hopefully you did well on that section. And if you did, now pause the video again and now do 9 through 12 and then check your answers with the video. But of course on the test you would check your answers by substituting in what you got for x and making sure it checks. Problem number 9, 2 times my invisible 1 is 2x. 2 times 2 is 4, equals 14. I then minus 4 on both sides. I get 2x equals 10. Opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide by 2. X is equal to 5. Problem number 10, negative 3 times 4 is negative 12x. Negative 3 times a negative 5 is a positive 15. I then minus 15 from both sides. Negative 12x equals 24. Opposite of multiplying by negative 12 is to divide by a negative 12. I get x is equal to negative 2. Problem number 11, negative 4 times my invisible 1 is a negative 4x. Negative 4 times 5 is a negative 20, which is equal to 40. I then add 20 to both sides. Negative 4x equals 60. The opposite of multiplying by negative 4 is to divide by a negative 4. And we get x is equal to, I don't have a calculator, I gotta do long division. Negative 4 into 60, so just 4 into 60. I don't need to worry about the negative until I'm done. 4 goes into 60, 6 into 1 time, 2 left over, then 4 goes into 25 times. So I get negative 15. And you should be using a calculator, but if you don't, then yes, you'd be expected to do the long division. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times 6 is a 30, positive 30, equals my 80, which you could have moved to the other side. Subtract 30 on both sides. I get 50 equals 10x. Divide by 10. And I get 5 is equal to x, or x is equal to 5. So hopefully you did well on those. If you tried them on your own, which I did encourage you to, we will be doing the try these together in class as always. Your Google form starts on page 112 where it says lesson 7 homework. I'm only going to be picking 5 problems. You do have a quiz tomorrow, half of you in class, half of you at home. Although I do let you use your notes on the quiz, something like this, it's going to be very hard to use your notes for because it's not just definitions anymore. You actually have to be able to apply what you're learning to the problems that you're going to be given. So yes, some of it will be easy for you to look up in your notes as far as definitions and maybe some concepts, but you really need to be confident with this to move quickly and confidently through tomorrow's quiz. So please make sure you do the 5 in the Google form and check them and watch any videos you may have missed or completed any Google forms you may have missed, or rewatch videos that you think would be a good idea to rewatch prior to taking tomorrow's quiz. Tomorrow's quiz will be the last grade of the first quarter. So first quarter will be complete after tomorrow's